It's 10 o'clock.
That's fine.
Hello, you lovely lot. Now, oh, goodness gracious. Is there a full house today? I think there is, for something new. It's called the EV Café News and Views, where we have 20 minutes and we give you what's happening in sustainable transport with expert analysis from the EV Café crew. Brought to you this week by EV Civil Solutions, who happen to be in the vehicle with Paul. Craig is live as we speak. With Craig from EV Civil Solutions, and also we have Geotab in the vehicle. So greetings all. Sarah and Sam together in a car somewhere, goodness only knows where. Where are you two?
On our way to the British Motor Show.
And JB is on his bottom, which is unusual. You're right, mate?
Yeah, at my EV Café head office, which otherwise known as my home. So,
good man, well done. We've actually got some viewers, people. We've got viewers. Okay, let's move on. Let's just grab a cuppa and plug in for what's happening in clean transport this week. And coming up, we've got the tech sector operating the most sustainable fleets. No real surprise. Noise is pollution too. Oh yes, we forget about noise as being pollution. 2/3 of councils have no plan for residential on-street charging. LKQ are closing the EV skills gap. And there's a massive business opportunity for charge point operators. Stay tuned, because you could get rich. Now then, a quick name check before we get into this stuff. Sam Dewhurst. Hello, Sam. Toby Hiles, here every Friday. Love you, man. Nothing else to do. Leah. Oh, Leah. We love Leah. Ashley Bannister, you're here every Friday, and we love you for it. Sarah Gray. Loving your work, darling. Varun Candy, Varun. Big hugs to you, my darling Colin Hennessy. Hello, mate. Mark Wynn, greetings. Stephen Williams, there's lovely look you from Direct Line Group, one of our sponsors, and we love him dearly. Steve Hamer from Shell. Hello, mate. You're right. Ron Godfrey. Martin Sweeney from MHA, Brent Oldfield. Nick Ansell, Dan Martin, James Purton, Carl Elliott. You are all Alan Wright. All right. We are all so grateful for you joining us. It's 10:02. Let's crack on with the news. The technology sector has topped the list of industries operating the most sustainable fleets. The financial and professional services sector and energy and chemical sectors were placed second and third respectively. The report's based on analysis of fleets from 8 industry sectors: technology, financial and professional services, energy and chemicals, industrial, automotive, consumer goods, construction and healthcare and pharma across 22 European countries. Interesting, because they were ranked on 4 factors: the share of their diesel vehicles, the share of battery electric vehicles, the share of hybrids, and the fleet average CO2 emissions. And I've got to say, I'm not surprised to see technology at number 1. Anybody else? No. I mean, they're early adopters, aren't they? Early adopters in technology, and if they can't embrace it, who will? Sam, you're in a tech business. You got an EV, mate?
What do you think? Yeah. Well, I'm currently sat in Sarah's EV, which is, as I've said for many years, these things are iPhones on wheels rather than vehicles with of the traditional kind. So, the tech sector is so imperative. It's a fundamental of what these new vehicles are. They are tech machines with wheels on the corners. So. Like everybody else, no doubt the tech sector topping list of industries for sure.
But what really fascinated me, mate, was that financial and professional services were second. Financial, they know the numbers, and they'll be doing all this TCO calculations and making sure that it's good value for money. And Paul, the commercial sector is really key here in moving people, paper, staff, all the rubbish that they do. Talk to us about vans, darling.
Well, what wasn't a surprise was that construction and the heavier end of industry was lower down the list. And so whilst I agree to some degree around the tech sector and all that, and they're first early adopters, they're also big company car users. And actually, people are voting with their pocket. The benefit in kind benefits, for the financial sector are significant. So that's the key here. I think that the benefit in kind incentives are working and the challenges are obvious for the heavier end of the sector. So it's harder to electrify that part of the world. So, I think the divisions are very clear and tell the story well.
Yeah, absolutely. JB, are you seeing this sort of dissection of the marketplace in the work you do with Novuna?
I don't notice it as such because we work alongside. I think it's really important for the rise of adoption across all industries. The role that the leasing company has to play in guiding all industries, not just providing vehicles, but supporting the wider e-mobility ecosystem. But yeah, I would say that looking at the figures, it's great to see the doubling of BEVs, battery electric vehicles across all industry in just 2 years. That's great. And I think that we're probably in the tech sector as Novuna because we are close to that 1 in 4 vehicles being battery electric vehicles. So it's all good news.
And we're all dependent, of course, on how our payments are processed. And Sarah, the customer driver experience is absolutely critical in getting that endorsement and that usage of EVs. Paythrough are doing some great work there.
Yeah, it's all about making it frictionless or as close to as possible in partnership with CPOs. So if drivers like these early adopters can spread the word about how easy it has been for them. And I do agree with Paul, actually, that a lot of this is about affluence and whether or not you as an employer offer that senior level of management the opportunity to go salary sacrifice or to benefit from an electric vehicle above and beyond anyone else. But it shouldn't put people off. It is definitely about making sure that your user experience is easy, and people like us are collaborating all the time behind the scenes to make sure it's a sort of package approach that people don't have anything to worry about.
Absolutely. Now, we've got Ian Roberts who's joined us in the chat, and he's just said Mirning, M-I-R-N-I-N-G, Mirning. I think he's French. Michael Anderson, hello, mate. Andrew Stead from Plug Me In. Charging infrastructure for home and depot charging. Hello, my darling. He says, Sam, he loves your PJs.
Oh, dear. Why today? Paul, can you get back in the car? It was better when you were in the car, Paul. Could you get back in?
We're about to talk about Paul's noise. Just saying hello to...
Okay, fine.
Laura Hustwick-Wilkes. Hello, Laura. Gemma Lovett, first-time caller. Gemma, hello. Thank you for joining us. Drop in the chat if you can. Where did you find out about us? How do you know about the EV Cafe? Really interesting to hear. Wayne Dunn, hello, mate. And Sam Grantham from... Gridson. Sam Grantham, hello, mate. Now then, a majority of drivers want to see technology that can detect vehicles with illegally loud exhausts because noise is pollution too. And also where they're revving their engines unnecessarily. And they want to see this technology rolled out across the UK, according to new research. 6 in 10 drivers surveyed said that they just absolutely fed up to the back teeth with these nonsense noise cars. These little cars that have massive exhausts and they're... So, new technology is being brought in. The Department for Transport, DFT, commissioned a £300,000 trial of the technology, which started in October at 4 locations in Bradford, Bristol, Great Yarmouth, known for its big exhausts, and Birmingham. The system uses a video camera in conjunction with a number of microphones to accurately pinpoint vehicles exceeding the 74 decibel legal limit as they pass by. Paul Kirby has been warned not to speak near these cameras as his exhaust definitely exceeds the upper noise limit. Paul, any comment?
Well, I'm now in a noisy, windy area, so it just about sums it up. But Sam and Sarah are going to experience lots of exhaust noise today down at the British Motor Show, which is primarily there to make a lot of noise and spin a lot of wheels.
Yeah, so you guys are off to the British Motor Show. Presumably that's still a mix of internal combustion engine and EVs. What are you expecting to see? Expecting to see lots of fat exhausts, or are you expecting to see no exhaust at all?
I am. It wasn't just Paul. Other people said to me yesterday, the British Motor Show is not about EV, unfortunately. The penetration rate of EV versus internal combustion engine this year is very different to last year. We're there thanks to Abhishek from Cinch, so I think they're going to steal the show in terms of their offering for EV. And there's also the BYD seal that we would like to go and find. But apart from that, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's wheel spins, donuts. Oh, donuts, £5 for £5, and and very noisy. But then, of course, there's planes taking off every 10 minutes as well. So yeah, we'll be deaf by Friday.
And speaking of donuts, here's Johnny Berry.
Yeah. John,
Yes, mate.
in regard to the noise pollution, how about this? Instead of just relying on noise detecting tech, we ask insurers to place heavier premiums on vehicles with modified exhausts, and for these checks to be policed more. After all, most cars don't naturally breach the legal decibel limits unless tampered with or faulty. And if
Wow,
you're that person, there's a fault
That's
anyway.
That's really interesting because obviously when you take out insurance with companies like Direct Line Group and Churchill, they ask you that question: has your vehicle been modified in any way? And I wonder how many of these fat tailpipe people say, "Oh yes, I've got a huge tailpipe."
None.
Probably
There
not,
we are.
not all of them, no. So it needs to be
Steve-
policed more then. Perhaps.
Steve Williams is on the call. Steve, if you can tell us, do you get very many people admit to the fact that they've changed their massive exhaust or done other work to their engine? Sam, my darling.
I was just going to say I actually don't think there's an issue with these exhausts. It's just that they need to be used on a track, because ultimately in the future, when we get to the days where the predominant vehicle on the road is an EV, and it's coming. These vehicles, fill your boots, have as loud exhaust as you like, but you need to go and book a racetrack day and go enjoy it there, where in a controlled environment. And that's, I think, ultimately what will happen with these vehicles is they'll be compulsorily need to use, go and have a track day, enjoy yourself, have fun, make as much noise as you want, but you do it in that environment, not on the streets around where we all live.
Are you saying the future insurance question is, do you, instead of do you have a big exhaust, do you have a loud noise generator on your EV? Is that the future question?
That's funny.
The poor Saigon will be in trouble.
Oh,
That's poor, isn't it? A loud noise generator.
there he is. He's back again. Andrea Richardson from Dynamon. Hello. Nice to see you. Don't think we've seen you before. Hugh Maguire is probably a better person to answer the question around underwriting. So, Hugh, if you're about, chuck something in the comments for us. Now then, steady everybody. It's van time. Woohoo! Let's talk vans. Okay, this should really get Sam going. Vauxhall is launching an initiative to help increase the availability of residential on-street public charge points after research showed the majority of councils do not have plans in place. More than 2/3 of local authorities have yet to install any on-street charges, with almost 3/4 not having a published strategy for residential on-street parking, according to a Freedom of Information request. On-street charging provision helps residents without off-street parking to conveniently charge their EVs, and an estimated 4 in 10 company-owned electric vans are also charged at home by employees. So the widespread availability of charge points will enable van drivers to top up both at home and as destination chargers when they are doing residential jobs. Now then, Paul, what is your view on this? I'll come to you in a minute, Sam. You froth.
So it's fantastic, right? Because the 4 in 10 that charge are the 4 that probably have been specially selected by van fleets that currently go home, because it's actually very difficult for van fleets to send their vans to homes because they can't actually charge off-road. I reckon less than 10, maybe 15 possibly % of home use vans will be able to be charged at home. So we absolutely need on-street architecture to be able to support the adoption. And we also need the government to release the levy fund, because they haven't released it yet, to deploy said charging. It is a really big challenge, and we need to help councils. We need to help the fleets that are having to send vans home, because there is a real challenge around charging vans in any other way.
To keep Sam on the froth, let's go to Sarah.
Yay! Thank you. Well, I would just like to name check Chargy and Connected Curb, because they are both innovators and have always tried to put their money where their mouth is and work closely with councils, as Paul has said. So for me, I think it's all about the usual, the right kit in the right place at the right time. Because this way, if it's applicable and it's appropriate and it's been done at the same time with the traffic regulation order that allows people to park in those spaces that have been allocated a lamppost or an on-street charging bay, then great. But if not, I'm not bothered that local authorities don't necessarily all have a plan, because they've probably thrown their money elsewhere, perhaps at partnering with people creating hubs, or perhaps at individual private businesses who are now electrified, and so that heat map has cooled down because there's not so much need or demand anymore. So these statistics have to be treated with caution. It's not local authorities' being lazy or not putting their finger out.
No.
A lot of the time it's probably deemed inappropriate, and therefore business as usual tasks take priority over these sorts of things.
And I think that's what this report says, that Vauxhall, in connection with companies like Chargy, Connected Curb and SureCharge, have come together to bring an enablement fund to help councils understand the scale of on-street charging issues and the available solutions. So I think that's absolutely right. And Johnny, that's clearly right for a lot of the vehicles that Novuna supply, that people without off-street parking are going to need to be able to charge. Are hubs the right way? Is residential charging the right way? Or is it going to be that combination, right charger, right time, right place?
Oh, he's
And
on mute.
Oh,
Johnny's on mute. Johnny.
I was just coughing, so I didn't want anyone to hear me coughing. So I think it's going to be the latter, John. I think the combination is definitely the key here. But regardless of what route for charging we can't charge at home, the important bit is the collaboration between OEMs, leasing companies, major fleets, and bodies like AFP to ensure that they are strategically placed based on real demand, longevity, and has a commercial model behind it. So yeah, we're willing to support as Novuna. I'll pass over to Sarah. She's got something to say.
Yes, I do. Johnny, your very valid point made me think that actually this
You're boring.
if you work in partnership with house builders as well as a local authority, you can have a role whereby those houses aren't entitled to to driveway parking, but you can install these things way ahead of time and allocate them correctly.
And that's what PodPoint are doing right now. Well, welcome to Gary Comerford. Hello, mate. Matthew Ling and Hugh Maguire's been in the chat talking about insurance. Really appreciate that. Let's move on to the next story.
No, don't.
Come on, then. Let's have it.
All right, I've got one point to make, and it's one that Paul missed, and that is, as a Guinness World Record holder in a van, and more importantly, actually, someone who's owned the largest fully electric fleet in the country, I can tell you with absolute certainty that you have to rely on charging that is guaranteed, okay? As a commercial van driver, you cannot hope that there might be a charger on your street you might be able to use at some point in the week. You will go out of business. So this is great. It's a great initiative. I'm all for residential charging, but in the commercial sector world, if it isn't 100% guaranteed to fulfill the needs of that van driver on that street, then it is not going to work, because that person relies on that energy in order for them to do their job. So it's great if it works, but it has to work in the real world, and people have to be able to use it guaranteed whenever they need it.
Has anybody seen that wind-up monkey with the cymbals? And you just kind of... Sam.
You've got to add real world to this, John. You can't just look at it. We can't all look at it. Oh, that's a great idea, without the real world, actual environment that this has to operate in, and that comes on to one of the next topics. But it has to work in the real world, not just a conceptual good idea.
He's so predictable. And he's even read the script, which is unusual. Now then, news from LKQ Euro car parts on closing the EV skills gap. LKQ Academy has committed to upskilling another 1,000 technicians in servicing hybrid vehicles, and electric vehicles, yay, by the end of 2023. The pledge follows a successful 12 months for the LKQ Academy, in which it trained more than 2,000 technicians in hybrid and EV servicing, maintenance and repair. There is so much that's needed to be done to close the skills gap. And business has to take its part in this. Sarah, you are massively involved in making sure that people have the right skills and training our young people right through to reskilling people who have unfortunately lost their jobs. It's a massive area, isn't it, this training? And you're heavily involved in helping to improve the skills of people.
Yeah, I really do like to volunteer in this sector. My inbox, particularly on LinkedIn, does get rather full of people saying, please help me, there's this and this and this, and you have to work out what's best for them, right? But then it has to come back to the ITT Hub and EV Café, when we were lucky enough to have a local college on the stage and tell us all about what they were doing. And that's what really sparked it for me. And then... And since then, I've really tried to help. And I must credit the eMotion Cornwall movement, that was a European fund that helped set up an event down in Bodmin. And there was 2 colleges that had joined together, and they knew they could both offer different things: reskilling, upskilling, and then entering the market as an apprentice. So I encourage
Oh, we've lost Sarah. Are you back?
Motorcycles. Yeah,
She-
that was a call from Fowler's Motorcycles in Bristol if my electric bike was in for a service.
She's-
Sorry.
they're going to try and call back as well,
I
blatantly.
know.
Yeah.
Right, okay, let's wiggle on. 2/3, 67% of electric vehicle drivers would be prepared. Now, Sam is going to absolutely lose his head over this. 2/3 of electric vehicle drivers would be prepared to pay a premium to reserve a public charging bay. New research suggests more than 1 in 4 would be willing to part up with up to £10, and 1/3 are happy to pay up to £5, while 7% said they would be prepared to stump up more than £10 to reserve their charging spot. Let's go to Johnny. Johnny, would you pay £10 or more to reserve a charging spot?
I probably wouldn't because I have a charger at home, so I'm doing all right. But fleets that have to rely on public networks will certainly, I think, pay that premium in order to reserve a charger, especially during the dwell times, as such limiting the cost of this downtime, which is often more than the actual energy consumed, to be honest.
Johnny, would you do me a massive favour, mate? Could you possibly just say exterminate, exterminate?
Exterminate.
Thank you, Kate. Your voice is all over the shop, mate. Paul, would you pay £10 to reserve a charging spot?
No, I wouldn't pay £10 to reserve a charging spot, but I do think that this is a good initiative in some context. But I think to add effectively 20 pence a kilowatt for for energy, or kilowatt hour, as Sam will probably correct me, is too much. I mean, it's too expensive. I think we need, as Sam pointed out on the previous news item, that we do need to have guaranteed energy available at the point that you need it, for commercial vehicles in particular. But I think to add more into that model for commercial vehicle users is not going to be well received.
Sarah, would you pay £10 for it, my dear?
No, I was, and thank you to Mark Gwynn who flagged this to us yesterday on our LinkedIn. That was really great to see. I at Patriot, we get asked this quite a lot. This is quite a common client request for the software that sits behind the chargers to enable public charging to have booking. But personally, I'm still concerned about it in a big way. I think for fleet, it works brilliantly. If you've got a closed fence operation, you know exactly where those vehicles are, exactly the right time, and you can manage those movements, then it's a must, actually. But in the public realm, which was my old world, my previous hat, I really struggle to see how this will work.
Signal around here. It's around here.
Yeah, we can still hear you though, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know, Paul.
Cheers, mate.
When technology and Paul Kirby get involved, all hell breaks loose. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I do have thoughts on this, and quite strong ones as well. It's an absolutely terrible idea in the B2C world. I think, as Paul and all of my fellow colleagues have alluded to, in the fleet world, that's a different kettle of fish. But we've been looking at this, and I've been looking at this for various reasons for some time now. And again, I just want to slap a little bit of real world onto this. It's not just about how convenient it is to book a slot, right? So how much is it going to be for a reservation? And what happens when the reserve turns up and 5 bays were already free? What happens if the reservation is placed and the charge point goes offline? How do we notify people that they got to go to the right bay? We've got to have a big light LED flashing system in order to tell people where to go. And what grace period do we place around chargers? 15 minutes either side, in which case the charging session gets much wider and we lose revenue. Is it a 2-class rich system in terms of people who can afford to pay £10 extra and those that can't? So then are we just separating those that can't afford it? Can a reservation be cancelled? Is there a financial penalty for that? Do we need to do dynamic charging differently for reservations? It goes on and on and on. It's just so many, and worse than that, I think, is that if you end up with 5 bays out of 6 reserved and you turn up, imagine how frustrating that is for somebody to be able to see 5 bays that you can't use. Now, maybe that's because they're legitimately booked, but it's just fraught with complication and probably very damaging reputation for the CPOs. And all of those variables, plus many others, are things that say GridServe has to adhere to, and maybe we let's just say we crack all of those challenges and everything works beautifully. What about the next CPO down the corner? Have they got the same rules, the same regulations? Are they going to do it in the same way, or is it a completely different set of rules for a different CPO, charge point operator? So I think in the B2C world, I think we need to stay well away from this, but in the B2B world, as in future
Unless
commercial
it's a hotel.
charging. Yeah, but that's more closed loop, isn't it? To your point.
Yeah, my
earlier.
point. Yeah, closed fence.
Yeah, more closed fencing, so to speak. Controlled environments, then fine. But for the general B2C, nightmare.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell him. Thanks. But that was your mum just asking if you could get off the fence. Now Toby Hiles asked. Toby Hiles asked who the research was done by. It was done by charge point operator SMS. And I can send you the link for more information on that, Toby, should you need. Right, now then, if you have any clean transport, PR or news stories you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. If we can wind Sam up, if we can wind up Paul, and if we can make Johnny just smile a little more and be even more Dalek, that would be wonderful. Until next Friday.
John, thank you to. Can I just say thank you to Andy Baxter, who works at GridServe, who put those parameters together on an email recently in regards to the response to that news article, because he articulated the things I've just said. I've plagiarised his words, but things we've all been thinking about. But it's always good to acknowledge other people's work. So thank you for that, Andy.
Team.
Is there anybody else that works at GridServe on this call, I wonder?
Sambo.
If you've got any clean transport, we've done that one. Right, until next Friday, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week by EV Civil Solutions. Hurrah! Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just funner. Now then. Before you go, can we just wish the Lionesses, aka the England's women football team, all the very best for the World Cup final on Sunday as they play Spain, starting at 11 a.m. UK time. If you want me at 11 a.m. on Sunday, it ain't happening. The EV Cafe is truly blessed to be partnered with Geotab, EV Civil Solutions, the AA, Churchill Insurance, Plug Me In, Spiri, Hydrock, Interval, Kersha, and McIntyre Hudson. With the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to clean transport. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, wherever it takes you. Until next Friday, goodbye.
Exterminate.
Oh my God.
Can we talk now?
I know, I loved Little Dalek. That was so cute. Well done, Joe.